kingdom.
Live.
So on at it. What's hot?
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni.
And when it's grim, be the Grim Reaper and go get it.
It's my home's house. And it is good. Whoa! Arrowhead man.
The Lombardi Trophy has a red and gold reflection.
You gotta fight for your right to party.
Man. Shouldn't be smiling every
It's Wednesday. It's 8 o'clock. That means it's time for Chiefs Kingdom Live. Thank you so much to everybody who's stopping by and saying hi to us, watching the show. We sure appreciate it. Don't forget, while you're here, if you'd be so kind, don't forget, click or tap that like and subscribe button. Would sure help us out. Make sure you also go ahead, tell a friend, tell a family member, tell some Chiefs fans. We'd appreciate you all helping spread the word. We're getting closer to 500 subs here on YouTube. We're got a giveaway we're planning for when that happens. So the sooner we can get to that, the sooner we can give away some more free stuff, which we love doing. We got a good show planned for you all this evening. We're going to talk about the Chiefs 53-man roster, and then we're going to go around the NFL tonight. Next week's episode, Wednesday night, it's going to be it's going to be kickoff NFL, Chiefs home opener eve, Red Wednesday. We're going to be all Chiefs next week. So,
and we're going to be there. We're going to be there.
We're going to be there Thursday. So Thursday night, looking forward to that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Looks like we got a bunch of our friends here in the chat already. Good to see you, Chris. Brenda's in there. I'm sure Laney, Big Doug, they'll be stopping by. So shoot us a question or a comment while you're here watching. Makes the show a lot more fun when you all participate. No Bo tonight. He was a no-go. I was a game time decision, fighting a little bit of an illness, a little bit of cold or something going on here, but I'm active and I'm playing tonight. So I got my cough drops. I got my drink here, so it should be good. Nick, how are you doing?
I'm good. Bo's day to day, just so you guys know. No, I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm the 53-man roster's there. We were like a week away. The Chiefs are going to be the first team to play, the only game on. We're going to do a Super Bowl trophy presentation here coming up. I'm stoked, man. I'm stoked. We actually have some stuff to talk about this week. So,
right. Yeah, well, let's just get into it. 53-man roster. The Chiefs trimmed it down from 90 to 53 yesterday. Some surprise moves, some not so surprise moves. Let's just get into it and let's talk about it. First off the bat here, kind of a surprise to me was at quarterback. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is no surprise, but Shane Bichelle released and not even signed to the practice squad. Sounds like maybe they're going to let him go somewhere and have a chance to play. Maybe he asked him, who knows what goes on behind the scenes, but he was the second quarterback to play in the second and third game. I almost feel like maybe he played his way into that second QB spot in week 2 against the Saints, and then they played himself out of that spot in week 3 against the Browns, right, where he didn't look so hot. But Shane Bichelle is gone from the roster. Nick, were you surprised to see Shane Bichelle gone?
Yeah, I think everybody was kind of surprised when they saw that cut come through. But like you said, maybe they're going to let him go play somewhere. But I don't know, man. It's tough to tell, right? I think there's a lot of things that we don't necessarily see. That, you see guys play and they look like they have talent and they do cool things in a game, but maybe there's a lot of things we don't see as far as, was he getting the reads in right? Was he calling the right motions? What's his acumen look like with his ability to remember the plays? Or, there's a ton of things that I'm not saying that those things were problems, because I don't know, right? Like, we don't know. And so I think that, it was surprising to see him cut, but I mean, we've always kind of gone with, in the Andy Reid era, at least, with that veteran quarterback backup, a guy that has played, has been around. And, I talked about that before, but I thought it was clear that from a talent perspective that Shane Bichelle was, had more capability than Blaine Gabbert, being honest, right? But so we wish Shane Buechele well, man. I mean, I hope that he lands somewhere and that he can get some playing time somewhere.
Yeah, those are all good points. Michelle's a little bit of a wild card. He plays a little bit maybe too loose for Andy Reid's liking as a backup quarterback. Not to say that that's a bad thing. Patrick Mahomes plays loose, right, and ad libs and kind of goes off script. But he's Patrick Mahomes. Shane Buechele is not Patrick Mahomes. So
yeah,
I just feel like they trust Blaine Gabbert as more of the steady hand and not maybe the roller coaster of Shane Buechele, the up and downs, where he just balled out against the Saints and then comes out and throws a pick 6 to Juan Thornhill the very next week, right? So 2 quarterbacks for the Chiefs. Running back, I don't know. It's not a surprise, but maybe more of a disappointment that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is still on this team. I guess he's familiar with the offense. He's been in the system for several years. He has that first-round draft pick pedigree. The Chiefs, there were other backs that looked better than him.
Yeah.
LaMichael Pirine, I thought shined. I thought he played well, but he played later in the games. The frustrating thing to me with that was why don't you give a guy like Prince or Pirine some opportunities with the first team offense to see what they could do in that role?
Agree.
You know what you have with Clyde, who's an average to maybe slightly below league average running back. The guy, he doesn't really have a burst. He's not really all that great at breaking tackles. I know that the feather in his cap was his pass catching ability coming out of LSU, but this is the NFL. This isn't the SEC. There's still a big leap, okay, from the SEC to the NFL. His game is not translated to the league, but they go with 3 running backs, no fullback, which we've talked about the last few weeks on this show when they got rid of Michael Burton a while back and did not replace him. Nick, disappointment level with not seeing maybe a Pirine or a Prince. I didn't expect Prince, to be honest. He did not do enough in the preseason to supplant CEH. I thought maybe Pirine did. What do you think?
I felt like he did, but you can look at the previous statement I said where there's some things that we just don't understand and don't see, right? But as far as just pure running back talent, you saw more out of Pirine than you did out of CEH. I mean, CEH to me did not have a good preseason. I mean, were there any plays where you saw where you're like that was a play that only CEH could make, right? I mean, and I don't know if how accurate this is, right? I was grabbing this. I did compare it against a couple of websites. But I mean, the websites had CEH above Jerick McKinnon too, which I think is odd, right? That, not only did he make the roster, but he's the number 2 behind Isaiah Pacheco. So look, we'll see how it goes. This is still a fluid thing, right? There could be somebody that gets cut from another team that the Chiefs like, and then the number 53 is now number 54, and he's looking on the outside. But yeah, I was disappointed. I mean, it feels a little bit like the Chiefs are just not wanting to own up to that mistake of drafting CEH in the first round. But maybe there's just some things that we can't see, that we don't understand as outsiders. I mean, I do defer to trusting that, Andy Reid knows what he's doing with these roster, decisions better than I do. Right. So, but yeah, you'd just like to see more talent at the running back position for the guys that we would keep. So.
Yeah. So basically the Chiefs go into this season like they went into last season with Isaiah Pacheco, CEH, and Jerick McKinnon. Jerick McKinnon being listed 3rd. He's more of like the 3rd down, pass protection, pass catching back. He's a little bit older. He's got some more miles on the tires, so to speak. So I think you see Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jerick McKinnon pretty close split in playing time after Isaiah Pacheco. Wide receiver, after months, felt like years of talk about how many wide receivers are the Chiefs going to keep. is a guy like Amir Smith-Marset or Nico, Remigio?
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to make the team? Especially ISM, he was preseason hero. Chiefs actually trade him to the Carolina Panthers for like a weird swap of 7th-round picks. Although a 7th-round pick is nothing to snooze at. Isaiah Pacheco, the starting running back on the team,
Yep.
pick. Good players can be had in the 5th and 6th and 7th rounds in the draft. But the Chiefs go with 7 wide receivers. As you can see, the obvious ones there, Kadarius Toney, MVS, Sky Moore. Rashee Rice was never in any jeopardy of not making this team. We'll get to him and his drop issue here in a second. But Justin Watson, you just knew that the veteran guy, kind of like a Blaine Gabbert of the wide receiving core. He's been here a little while. He might not be the flashiest guy, but you just feel like the coaching staff trusts Justin Watson. Patrick Mahomes trusts Justin Watson. So he makes the team. Richie James and Justin Ross make the team. No surprise there after the training camp and preseason that those guys had. What do you think? How you like the wide receiving core? You like the 7 instead of 6?
It's always good when you're disappointed that we didn't keep more than 7 wide receivers, right? You're not sitting there going, shit, who are we going to throw the ball to? So this is the first time since he's been with the Chiefs and Andy Reid's kept 7. Super stoked that Justin Ross made the team. We've talked about him a lot on this show. And I feel like that guy is from what I've seen in the preseason, he's a talent that, is gonna, I think he's gonna climb this list, right? But yeah, other than that, no, I wasn't surprised that we kept Justin Watson. I think that, there's a lot of people on the internet, on X and commenting online that are saying that, they don't see why we've kept Justin Watson. He's had a few pretty big catches for us, at crucial times in games. He's had some drops and stuff, but I think that he's a solid, he's a solid receiver. He's a fast guy. He can get open. He can stretch the field. So, I'm happy, man. I'm happy. I think that they've got every weapon, available for Patrick Mahomes that he could ask for at this stage in his career with the contract that he has. So,
right. I put a tweet out on the Chiefs Kingdom Live Twitter account or the X app, whatever you want to call it, that Justin Ross was never not making this team. There were so many people that seemed surprised or relieved that he made the team. If you remember, the Chiefs, after last year's draft, they signed him to as an undrafted free agent almost instantly after the draft was over.
Yeah.
We've gone over this. You could check the record. He had a stellar true freshman year at Clemson playing with Trevor Lawrence. He absolutely dominated Alabama in that national championship game. I think he had 6 or 7 catches for 160-something yards and a touchdown. Then he had the weird neck condition, which I don't even like to call that an injury. It was just something that the way his vertebrae and his neck were
it was congenitive, right? He was born with it.
Yeah, so that's not really an injury. They corrected that. Thought maybe it's too dangerous for him to play football, whatever. Then he did have the foot injury, which set him back. But the guy the Chiefs signed, it was like an insta signing after the draft. They kept him on IR for an entire year. You don't do that with a guy you don't plan to have on the team. So
yeah, very fair.
To me, that's an easy call that a lot of people didn't seem to think was an easy call. I'm really looking forward to what the guy can do. We saw the catch he had in the preseason game against the Browns here on Saturday. Got up there, right? And high pointed that ball and pulled it down. Spectacular catch by him. I want to say he scored a touchdown in all 3, or maybe it was only 2 of the 3 of the preseason games, but the guy looked good. And if he can stay healthy, the Chiefs, I believe, have a sick weapon with Justin Ross in this receiving corps. I will not be surprised if maybe he supplants one of these other guys for some starting time here and maybe quarter of the way, halfway through the season. Injuries always happen to other players too, so maybe he gets in there that way. But I expect big things from Justin Ross. I know he's the 7th wide receiver on this team, but talent-wise, he may be as talented or more talented than any other wide receiver on this team. So good for Justin Ross. Just a good feel-good story about the guy that never gave up. He kept going after his dream. He got it. He's on an NFL roster, defying the odds. So good for Justin Ross. Looking forward to seeing him in the Chiefs uniform. You know, you mentioned Justin Watson has the occasional drop. I don't want to talk about this too much. Rashee Rice, though, if you go back and watch last week's episode, we had talked about how he had a drop in each of the first 2 preseason games. And did we expect to see him have a drop in the 3rd game? And you and I and Bo all unanimously were like, no way. It's got to be a focus point for him right now. There's no way he's going to have a drop this game. And then he comes out. Depending on what you're counting as a drop, he had 2 to 3 drops in the game Saturday against the Browns. One was for a wide open touchdown. I mean, the guy catches that ball, he outruns everybody to the end zone. What's the worry meter on Rashee Rice and the drops that have plagued him the entire preseason?
Yeah. Yeah, we got Kevin Capel here saying Rice is looking like Dwayne Bowe 2.0. I hope that's like the good Dwayne Bowe years. But yeah, I mean, you know, Dwayne Bowe is a player that had ups and yeah, he definitely had downs. So, but no, it's stoked. We're stoked, right? We're stoked to have Justin Ross on the team. And Rashee Rice, look, it's too early to tell, dude. Like, it's only a few games. It's just not necessarily trending in the right direction. So, you know, he's had some plays where he's flashed, but you know, when you drop a wide open touchdown like that, I mean, it's definitely going to make some people nervous. I saw some people saying he's a bust. I mean, that's just online crap. I mean, it's way too early to make a judgment on a player after, you know, a few preseason snaps, but it's something that definitely you hope that they can get addressed. So we got a few new people in the chat. We got Occasional Outlaw, Kevin Capel. I'm not sure if Kevin's been here before, but welcome. Looks like we got Tom Hood. He's back. Hey, Tom. John B's in there. It's awesome. Awesome to see you guys. Thanks for joining. It's just me and Scott this week. So,
yep. Bo might be able to jump in here later on, depending on what his last minute kind of thing that came up with him was. So maybe we'll see him in the chat too. He likes to pop up in the chat sometimes when he's on there. But yeah, it's good to see everybody here in the chat. Make sure you send us a comment, send us a question. If you're new to the show, sure as heck appreciate you all swinging by and saying hi. Getting more down kind of into the weeds of this roster. Tight end, no real surprise there. There was people thought maybe Matt Bushman would make the team, but I always thought he was a long shot. So they're going in with Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, Blake Bell. Familiar names.
right.
Belldozer, he's been here for a while. Noah Gray, I want to say he was like a 4th or 5th round pick from a couple drafts ago. Made some big catches in the playoffs for us. Made a big play in that Jaguars game where he kind of went to the ground, right? Was that the Jaguars game or was that the Bengals game? And the ball was kind of like bouncing around. He kind of grabbed it while he was laying on the ground, picked up a first down. So solid, dependable, familiar faces in the tight end room. Nick, I mean, no surprises there for you, right?
Nope. Just, I mean, as long as you got Travis Kelce on that list, we're feeling pretty good about our tight ends. So,
yeah. O-line basically comes intact from last year, except for the tackles there. Donovan Smith and Jawan Taylor take over. Looked good in the preseason. I saw both those guys were getting a lot of kudos, especially from guys like Mitch Schwartz and some former linemen that really know that position and know what to look for. So encouraging there. Got some draft picks in there. Nick Allegretti, he's an old friend. Lucas Niang, guy that's been on the team for a few years here now. Some solid depth pieces. Moving into the defense, Chris Jones. Almost don't want to talk about Chris Jones at this point, but you got to talk about Chris Jones. Not
on the 53-man roster.
He's on the did not report list. The roller coaster the saga continues with Chris Jones this offseason. Although Brett Veach did say today that there have been more talks with Chris Jones and his agent in the last few days, and that they are hopeful, I believe is the term that he used, that Chris Jones will play week 1. Nick, I don't want to talk about this too much because we've gone on and on about it for weeks now. Does Chris Jones play week 1, yes or no?
At this point, I would say no. I mean, I've been wrong all offseason, so it doesn't really mean anything. But I mean, I don't think that he doesn't report, right? I mean, if he's not going to play, he hasn't been there for training camp. He hasn't played any preseason. Now he's not reporting unless he gets in there soon. I mean, he's not even going to be, ready, right? I mean, I don't think he's. Do you think that Andy Reid's going to let him show up the gate the day before a game and put him in there? I mean, I just.
Man, I don't know.
You're talking about coming up on a week until game day, the first game of the year, and you'll have no reps with the new guys. I would say no. I think he's set on holding out. So
I'm holding out hope that he's going to play, and I'm with you, Tom. I think we're all with you, Tom. That you don't really want to hear about Jones anymore.
right.
Just a surprise not to see him on the 53-man roster. I would have bet a lot of money against that happening at the end of last season and this offseason before all this stuff happened here going into training camp. So he's still got time to get a new deal or show up and play on the deal he has now. But Andy Reid, he's pretty strict about if you don't practice the week of the game, you don't play. I don't know if a veteran guy like Chris Jones has earned maybe, I don't want to say that he's above that rule, but would maybe garner an exception. But I think if he don't show up, start practicing by early mid next week, then yeah, I don't think you see him on Thursday.
Right.
It being a short week, so time will tell there. We'll move on from Chris Jones. Chris,
we got JT.
Love you, and we want you, man. Yeah, our guy JT. Good to see you, bro. Thanks for swinging by. Always good to see you, our man out in the Carolinas. Yeah, JT's obviously referencing Amir Smith-Marset, one of the fan favorites in the preseason here. Doesn't make the team, gets traded to the Panthers. That's JT's squad out there. He was definitely the preseason hero. I mean, the guy showed out and
yeah,
albeit against certain fourth stringers maybe in the second half of these preseason games. But he found himself, he played good enough to get a pick back for the Chiefs. He goes out of conference, out of division. So with the guys the Chiefs have, even if he turns out to be a Pro Bowl receiver or something like that, you still would probably not scratch your head as much if the Chiefs or question them about not keeping the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like the Chiefs got to feel like some of that is a mirage, right? To not keep the guy on the team after he played. But yeah, no, Tom, you're right. He did look good. Got our man Daniel. Hadn't seen you in a while, Daniel. Good to see you, bro. Thanks for swinging by. Hope all has been well with you. I don't know anything else on the roster you want to go to. I mean, most of the rest of the roster, corners, secondary, linebackers, all pretty much the same coming back from last year. A few new faces and Nick Jones and some of these other guys, but defense kind of returns basically pretty much the same as it did last year for the most part. So
minus Chris Jones.
Yeah, JT, you're right. We do have enough. Spreading the love. Hope it works out good for you, man. We're going to get to our division picks here pretty soon, so stick around. I know our man JT participated in the poll this week. Anything else about the 53-man roster before we move on to just maybe like a quick rundown, recap of the game against the Browns on Saturday? Not many starters got significant playing time in that game. Anything stand out from you other than Rashee Rice's drops, which we already talked about?
Right. No, Tom, he's saying, what are your thoughts on keeping 6 linebackers?
Yeah, they've got solid players at that position. It gives you some depth. injury. Always, linebackers are a tough position. Those guys are in there playing at the line, tackle and running backs. So I'm good with that. Feels like maybe the Chiefs traded that fourth running back or fullback position and that fourth tight end spot for an extra wide receiver and an extra linebacker. I don't have a problem with that, especially the running back position, because if you've ever watched a game with me, you know how much I hate running the ball with Patrick Mahomes. So, yeah, a little surprising, but I feel good about it. Nick, what do you think? 6 linebackers, you good with that?
Yeah, I mean, if they're all solid players, that just gives you a little bit more depth, like you said, for injuries. But it also, like maybe later in games, if you've been rotating guys out a little bit more, you get to the fourth quarter, you've got a little bit more, a little bit more juice in the tank, right? So it's yeah, I think it's good. I mean, the linebacker probably overall, with the way that we run the ball, it's probably more useful than a fullback, right? On the roster, right? So I'm good with it, man. Tom thinks that we have some linebacker blitzes planned. Yeah, it's possible, right?
It's a good point, Tom. They're gonna have to find a way to manufacture some pressure.
Maybe they shift that back to that extra spot back to the defensive line, and that's just like where they decided to stash Chris Jones' spot. I don't know. So
yeah, looks like we got our man Brian, One Man Shows, in the chat. Good to see you, bro.
Brian, how are you, dude?
Bringing by. Brian, big Chiefs fan, knows his stuff. So good, glad to have him here. Couple of moves the Chiefs made. We talked about this initial 53-man roster and being fluid. The Chiefs traded for a defensive tackle from the Raiders and then signed a 5th-round draft pick cornerback from the Indianapolis Colts. So they're constantly watching the waiver wires and looking at guys. The Chiefs, they got guys that they like in drafts and they like on other teams. And maybe you don't always get what you want in the draft, but another guy, a guy falls out of favor or doesn't maybe fit with the team that drafts him. Chiefs are looking for those guys. They scoop those guys up. So,
yeah,
defensive line and cornerback depth is always a plus. I don't know if either of those guys see the field much or at all, but yeah, constantly changing the 53 is. So injuries, signings, free agents, whatever. JT's asking us. I'm assuming he's talking about Justin Houston.
Not the team Houston.
I mean, saying the Houston Texans have anything left meant they had something to begin with, which they didn't really. So
one time they had Deshaun Watson and J.J. Watt.
They did. That was a long time ago. And then they blew a 24-point lead to the Chiefs in the playoffs, and that team has not been the same since then. Patrick Mahomes breaks another franchise. I don't know what Justin Houston has left at this point in his career. I don't even know. Maybe JT can tell us how old Justin Houston is at this point. The way he left out of Kansas City, I think left a sour taste in the organization's mouth and the fan base's mouth. So I don't see him coming back, especially not with some of the young guys that they've got on this team. So, and I know what you meant, JT. We were just having a little fun, being kind of a smart ass there. So you're good, bro. Yeah, I don't know. Anything else Chiefs related you want to talk about, Nick?
No, I mean, I think we're going to save a lot of this talk for next Wednesday when we do our preview of the game against the Lions, kick off the NFL season. So I think we're good if you want to go into our division picks here.
Yeah,
so
make sure you tune in. Just make sure real quick, Nick. Make sure you tune in next week at 8 because we're going to have our Red Wednesday season kickoff special. We chock full of Chiefs talk and predictions and bold takes and lots of good stuff. So make sure y'all come in next week. Go click subscribe. Turn on those notifications so you don't forget. We're going to shift gears here a little bit, and we're going to talk about just some action and some predictions and talk about what we think this NFL season that starts next week looks like for the other 31 teams. Not that the other 31 teams matter that much, but
they matter to JT and John V, man. Come on.
I'm just giving our guys that are non-Chiefs fans a hard time for joining the show and watching us. These guys come in every week and they're not even Chiefs fans. That just tells you about the kind of dudes, kind of people these guys are. So
good dudes.
John V. I would love to know John V's take on the Trey Lance to Dallas trade.
Oh, dude, I was hoping for a locker room rant. I said on Twitter, you got to have one, and then we didn't get one. That would have been the most epic John V rant of all time.
Oh, it went from Trey area to Dallas, and I have never seen a team give up what a team like the 49ers gave up in draft picks for a player like Trey Lance, and then never even really give the guy an opportunity and see what you have with him, and then just ship him off for a 5th round pick. Woo, man, if I owned that team, I would be pissed.
There's people saying that they're entertaining trading Nick Bosa too.
Yeah, I don't know. That some guy on Reddit posted that.
Man, that's where all the top NFL posts is on Reddit.
I know. That's where all the NFL GMs hang out and got their burners is over on Reddit. But if I believed everything, I saw or read on Reddit, I would probably be in jail or homeless or who knows at this point in my life. So,
man, it's like the Wild West of the internet.
Trade Lance. There you go. That's a good pun. I like that one. I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it's as good as my Dal Lance, but it's still pretty good, John V. We like it. So yeah, while we got some fans of some other teams, let's get to the other divisions. Let's do some predictions. You said you want to start in the NFC, Nick?
Yeah, so I'm going to throw up the poll. So we did polls for every division. So feel free to paste your or post your division winners in the comments here, so we can kind of keep track of who's picking who and the divisions as we go through. So, but yeah, we're going to start NFC. We're going to go north, south, east, west. So
there we go. NFC North. I put this out here earlier this week. Again, if you're not following us on X, the app formerly known as Twitter, whatever you want to call that thing now, who wins NFC North? I was a little surprised the Bears maybe didn't get a little more than they got with some of the moves they've made. I mean, they brought in JT's guy. DJ Moore is a weapon for Justin Fields. Justin Fields really started to blossom and looked like he was starting to get a feel for the game. Maybe it was slowing down for him as the season progressed last year. But Chiefs Kingdom and the other people that voted on this poll, that would be the first time the Lions would be the division winners in the NFC North, Nick. That's correct, right?
Ever. They've never won the NFC North since the realignment.
That's crazy.
You know what's funny about this is I kind of picked the Lions as like a ha, like somebody's going to pick the Lions to win the division. And then when I clicked it, I saw the results and they were winning. And I was just like, what the fuck? But
right.
I mean, it's got to be the Vikings, right? I mean, the Vikings got to be the favorite to win the division. They've got, I mean, the best team. They got Justin Jefferson, Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. I mean, they were in the playoffs last year, right? I mean, the Bears, like you said, that I mean, Justin Fields may be turning around, but they also had him and got the number 1 pick. You know, they were the worst team, worst record in the NFL. So I don't know, man. I on the poll on X, I hit Lions, but I'm picking Vikings. Got to roll with race car on this one. So
yeah, I'm rolling Lions. I'm going with the Lions. There's a first time for everything, and I think this is the first year that team wins the division. I thought they were the better team last year, and they won 8-10 going down the stretch. Just missed a playoff spot. They were right there. A couple early losses that they had to teams that they probably should have beaten cost them. I like them going into the season. I think they got a pretty solid defense. They got Jahmyr Gibbs, which is one of the top-rated. He's pretty much the second-rated running back in this rookie class. So brought in a guy like David Montgomery. I like their coach. He seems to inspire those guys, and they play hard. That offense was no joke last year. It was legit. there at the beginning of the year, they had the number 1 ranked offense and the number 32 ranked defense, which almost seems like impossible to do, even if you were trying to do.
Yeah.
But I think their defense got better as the year went on. They've made some moves. The Vikings, Kirk Cousins, I'm just waiting for him to kind of fall off. He's getting older. They do have Justin Jefferson. They traded out Dalvin Cook. Alexander Madison was he was a great, he's a great player until he wasn't, right? So as a backup, we'll see what Alexander Madison can do as a starter. A little unproven there. Yeah, I'm picking the Lions. Looks like we got some folks in the chat.
Yeah, so
Most
Brenda,
everybody's picking the Vikings.
Vikings. JT's cousin has him biting kneecaps, so they're going with Lions.
There you go.
The one-man show, he's saying that people are thinking the Lions are going to upset the Chiefs. I mean, it's possible, right? The Chiefs upset the Patriots after they won the Super Bowl with Kareem Hunt. Laney's going Vikings. So, yeah, it's looking like most people are going Vikings. Bo saying he went Vikings. Tom's picking Vikings. So, yeah, it's looking like that's kind of weird, right? I mean, the chat is so heavy in on the Vikings here, but the poll 157 votes. That's a lot of people. That's a decent sample size there. So, and half of them almost picked the Lions. Surprising. That was the one that's probably surprised me the most, right?
Right.
John V's going Bears though. Dang, there you go. John V's in the minority there, the super minority, 6%.
John V wilding out with his hot takes here. So, yeah, Chiefs, they play this division this year. So it's going to be interesting. What do you think the Chiefs' record is against the NFC North this year, Nick?
4-0. When was the last time the Mahomes lost to an NFC team?
It's been a long time ago. Yeah, I think Chiefs go 4-0. They get the Bears at home. They get the Lions at home to start the season. Obviously, any team can beat any team any given Sunday, which would be any given Thursday in this scenario. But, yeah, I don't see the Chiefs losing that game at home against the Lions.
Right.
So they get the Vikings on the road. But, like I said, the Vikings' defense has been a problem for a number of years now, and that's really kind of what's held that team back. That does not bode well when you're playing Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and the Chiefs. So, yeah, I'm predicting a sweep of the NFC North by the Chiefs as well. Be interested to see what everybody in the chat thinks about the Chiefs taking on this division this year.
Yeah, Brenda's saying 4-0. This is her pick as well. So
CKL is going to try and hit the road for that Vikings game too. We're keeping an eye on tickets. I want to see that stadium, and it's not too far of a drive. It'd be a cool, quick weekend road trip up and back for a Chiefs game. Wasn't my first road Chiefs game last year because we'd gone to a few games Nick and I had when they would play the Rams in St. Louis. But going to that Phoenix game felt like more of like a road trip and more of a road game than
St. Louis felt like a Chiefs home game. I mean,
Right.
There's so many Chiefs fans there.
Right. And it was just St. Louis is in Missouri. It's right down the road. So, yeah, looking forward to a sweep of that division. That would really help the Chiefs' record. Obviously, beating up on NFC teams doesn't really help your playoff positioning out because you don't get the tiebreakers there. But, yeah, it's almost like the chat's just inverse, like a little bit heavier Vikings and Lions. But there's a fair amount of folks here in the chat picking Lions. So,
that's a good call out, Brenda. The Vikings are the only team, other than the Chiefs, obviously, that Mahomes hasn't beaten.
Yeah, good point. I think that happens this year. Looks like our man John C's checking in from, I believe, Fort Collins. Good to see you, John. Thanks for swinging by, man. Hope all has been well with you. You want to move on? NFC South?
All right. NFC South. Man.
Our man JT's division here, his Panthers. They pulled a second place finish in this poll here, but I was a little surprised by how the Saints ran away with this. I'm kind of going back and forth between the Saints and the Panthers. Panthers, to me, they lost a couple of players. by getting rid of CMC and getting rid of DJ Moore. But I think they got the best quarterback in this draft. So they turned it around after Matt Rule left. They got a new coach in there.
Mm-hmm.
Saints, Derek Carr. I don't know what to think of Derek Carr. I mean, it's hard to see anybody that leaves the Raiders and know what you have there because it seems like everybody goes to the Raiders and sucks. So Derek Carr, we've talked about him before. He's a guy that it seems like he plays well enough to like not get benched, but really not much better than that.
Dude, I feel like we've seen enough Derek Carr play to know who Derek Carr is as Chiefs fans, right?
Yeah. So, Nick, who you picking NFC South?
I'm going Panthers, man. I'm going
Nick's
Panthers. I'm supporting our boy
Pandering to our
JT.
man JT.
Yep. So I mean, look, the Saints would be kind of the obvious choice, just because I think they're the only one that seems to have like a solid quarterback choice right now, right? And so I think that makes it seem obvious. They have Alvin Kamara. Is he going to be suspended this year?
Alvin Kamara is suspended for 3 games.
Yeah. So I mean, they're not going to have one of their best weapons for 3 games. That puts them at a detriment to start the season. I'm going Panthers, man. I think that they've got the hot young quarterback, sorry, and I think they're going to win. It's up for grabs, right? This is probably the most up for grabs division.
No, I think
You
that's
think
probably
AFC South?
AFC East, maybe.
Oh, East, yeah, maybe.
But I mean, the Panthers were right there for a playoff spot last year, and they lost a surprising game to the Buccaneers late in the year. I was riding Panthers, and after giving Nick a hard time about pandering to JT here, I'm picking the Panthers too. I'm really surprised.
Man, it's okay to pander.
No, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. So I'm going to pick the Panthers, and not just because our man JT's watching, partially because our man JT's watching, but not just because he's watching. Yeah, I don't know. The Saints, Derek
Carr stable. It's funny.
Right. Derek Carr makes that team that much better. The Panthers got Bryce Young. They've got some players.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I like the Panthers this year. I think that's going to be a close race. A lot closer than this poll would suggest.
Right.
Looks like our man Bo's in here.
Oh, yeah. He's
games
been
where Michael Thomas gets hurt. Michael Thomas hasn't been good for like 6 years. It's been so long since that guy has been the guy that was leading the NFL in catches and yards and whatever it was. But I didn't see. Did Bo make a pick?
I'm scrolling. I don't see it if you did. Bo, put your pick in there.
I think I saw a few people picking Saints. Oh, there's Bo. Bo's picking Panthers. That's a sweet CKL.
Bam.
Picking the Panthers. All right, let's go. Carolina.
You heard it here first, folks. Just take a loan out on your house, second mortgage, and bet it all on the Panthers.
I don't know if I go that heavy, but
just know that we're not liable for any mistakes that you make with your financial well-being.
Maybe depending on what the odds are, what kind of action you can get on that might not be a bad bet, because I definitely think that is a closer division than that poll. So, yeah, I think I saw maybe Brenda and Laney or a couple people pick the Chiefs, or pick the Saints. So they're rolling with the popular choice there, but yeah, Chiefs. They don't play any teams from that division this year, do they?
Nope.
Nope.
No, we won't. Well, I guess we'll play. Who's our 17th game this year?
That's the Eagles.
Yeah, so I mean, other than that, we won't play any other NFC teams, right? Other than that one division. Okay,
yeah, so
moving, plowing ahead, as Bill Burr would say. NFC East. I mean, I think this one was fairly obvious. I'm surprised the Cowboys maybe didn't get a little more traction.
Yeah, not with Dak. The Eagles are the class of that division. The Commanders getting more votes than the Giants is kind of funny, considering the Giants actually were a playoff team and won a playoff game last year, right? So the Giants have got some players, and Saquon, if he could have another healthy season, Daniel Jones looked like a little bit more than serviceable quarterback. He's got that fantasy player as far as fantasy football goes with the rushing ability. They don't have much, though, outside of those guys, really. The Cowboys have some playmakers. I mean, they moved on from Zeke, but Tony Pollard is a nice runner. Kind of like that Alexander Madison role, though. You don't really know how he's going to do as a starter until he's a starter. A lot of guys can come in off the bench and look like ballers, right, when they're not getting 20 or 30 carries or touches a game and not carrying the workload for 17 games. So no real surprise there. I'm kind of surprised the Commanders pulled even 1 or 2 votes, whatever it was in this poll. Eagles, obviously, on defense last year, one of the higher ranked defenses, although we talked about that before the Super Bowl last year. They got exposed a little bit by the Chiefs. Eagles really didn't play a whole lot of solid offenses or quarterbacks last year. I want to say they played one quarterback all year that was in the top 5 or 6 in quarterback rating. I think it was Kirk Cousins maybe. So they just have the benefit of playing in the weaker conference and one of the weaker divisions. I know they had 2 playoff teams last year in that thing, but there's teams that were hovering around 500 that had a chance to make the playoffs last year. So,
Right.
I mean, the Giants were in the playoffs. That tells you all you need to know about the NFC. I don't think anybody on this show or in the chats picking anything other than the Eagles. Are you? Are we, Nick?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, the Eagles stacked on offense.
Unless Dak Prescott gets hurt and then Trey Lance turns into the second coming of Patrick Mahomes for that team, which that might be. I'm not a Cowboys fan, but that might be the timeline that I sign up to witness, just to see that kid, have something good go his way. But yeah, I don't think so. I'm picking the Eagles, man. I got a lot of my friends are Eagles fans. I kind of adopted them as my NFC team, much to my chagrin last year, where we ended up having to play them in the Super Bowl. But yeah, I'm going Eagles. I think that this is a pretty. This one's a lock, right? So
Yep. This is a lock. The Eagles, Jalen Hurts too on offense or some other defense, man. Their offense with Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, he's an upper echelon tight end. Yeah, that team's pretty loaded. So they could easily repeat as NFC champions and make it back to the Super Bowl. Man, I wish the Chiefs played in the NFC so bad right now.
yeah, it's much clearer, right?
Oh man, much clearer. So I don't know if anybody in the chat's picking other than the Eagles, but if so, don't bet any money on it.
Yeah, you won't get good odds on the Eagles. So,
right.
All right, NFC West. So this one was funny because this is the only team out of all the polls that got 0 votes. Was the Arizona Cardinals. So, RIP
Right.
Cardinals fans. Even the Cardinals fans that voted were like, yeah, we ain't winning the division. I can't even put it on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't know how many Cardinals fans would have seen this poll, but yeah, they're the only team that got goose egged in these predictions. So I know our man John V is happy to see the 49ers, the clear favorites in the NFC West. One of the easier divisions, the Rams. It's hard to say what they got there. I mean, they've got good players, but the quarterback position, they were down to Baker Mayfield last year, Matthew Stafford. I don't know what that guy's got left at this point. The defense, I mean, they got players, and they got Cooper Kupp, Cam Akers, one of the better running backs second half of last season. Sean McVay is an innovative coach. But just the 49ers, that system that they run on offense and their lockdown defense, except for when they play the Chiefs, they should be able to ride that to a fairly easy division title. Maybe the Seahawks jump up. I mean, they got Jackson Smith and Jigba from Ohio State. That's John V's guy. I bet that crushed John V to see him go to the Seahawks out there in Seattle, division rival. Geno Smith was comeback player of the year last year. They've got some weapons on offense. Their defense has not been as good as going back to a few years ago when they had the Legion of Boom, but still a fairly, competent defense. I just don't see them having enough to take down the Niners. So I'm picking Niners. Nick, you taking Niners?
No, Seahawks, man. We got to pick Seahawks for John V, right? No, yeah, 49ers, right?
If you want.
No.
Free country.
Look, the only other team that has a shot are the Rams, and like you said, there's just some weird question marks there. The 49ers have been a machine in that division, and you saw it last year. Look how just stacked their roster is. It didn't matter. They had a cardboard cutout in at quarterback, and they were still competitive. So, we'll just see what Brock Purdy has. He's kind of the there's been these backup quarterbacks that have come in and flashed, and then they look great until they don't. And so you just wonder, is that going to be Brock Purdy, or is he like the real deal, right? Did they really find that, that diamond in the rough and the last pick in the draft? So, but I think the good news for 49ers fans is you don't need him to be that good. They went, Jimmy Garoppolo is a decent quarterback, but he's not a great quarterback, and they almost won the Super Bowl with him. So they have that roster, that can take him there. So I'm definitely going 49ers.
Our man JT throwing some shade at Daniel in the chat here. Not sure if Daniel's still around or not, but hey, you know what? They went all in. They went all in.
They got it. They achieved the goal.
Hold it. Yeah, they won the Super Bowl. So they're paying for it now. But hey, I think most fan bases would take guaranteed money in your pocket. Look, you're going to win the Super Bowl this year, and then your team's going to suck for the next 5 or 6 years after that.
I had where our team was not good for 5 or 6 years, and we hadn't we didn't have anything even to look back on and be like, oh man, that was fun.
Yeah. John V. Daniel was trolling John V. and the guys over in Locker Room Rant there quite a bit there for a while. So good stuff. They got it done. Seahawks, they were in the playoffs last year, right? So
did they make the postseason? Were they the 7th seed?
Yeah, they did. They lost to the 49ers. So in a close game, actually. That playoff game was close, kind of going into the fourth quarter. So, and then I want to say Geno Smith threw a bad interception that might have even been a pick six or something, and they kind of got away from him there at the end. But Seahawks, I don't think they're as big of an underdog as this poll shows, but definitely 49ers are the team to beat in that division, and one of the 2 or 3, 4 top teams in the NFC. You agree with that, Nick?
Yeah. It's the 49ers and the Eagles to me are the 2 best teams in the NFC. So,
do the Cardinals go over this year? Do they go winless?
Oh, I don't think so.
Do they pull the defeated season? They're bad.
Yeah, you got to be a special kind of bad though to go.
I think they are special.
17. 0-17. They could. They could go down in history. They'd be the first team to go 0-17.
Yeah.
They shouldn't even make them play that 17th game. You're 0-16. Be like, we're just gonna call this one a draw for you guys.
they're bad. I want to say after they cut down to their 53-man roster and other teams released their players that got put on waivers, they claimed 6 or 7 or 8 guys that other teams had cut. Their roster is putrid. Kyler Murray was a terrible pick. They
Terrible
don't.
pick. They gave him like $200 million, didn't they?
I mean, they got rid of DeAndre Hopkins. They don't have anything outside of James Conner, who is fantasy relevant running back. They don't have anything.
So nice. I
They
love it.
don't. The Cardinals, they don't. The Chiefs waxed them basically 44 to what, 7 or 10 in their building last year. That
Yeah.
team is bad this year. That is a
And they're
bad
worse than that. They're worse this year than they were last year, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Easily
Yeah.
worse than they were last year. So, how many games do they win then? You're not going over. How many games do they win? 2?
2-15. That's how about they win? They have 3-win team. I'm gonna pick them to be a 3-win team.
Ooh, man, 3 wins. I'm picking over.
Yes.
I think they're that bad.
Dude.
I think the Cardinals go 0-17. They're terrible. Even when Kyler Murray comes back, what do they got? I don't see it.
Do you remember when we had Romeo Crennel as our head coach? Just how like laughably awful the Chiefs were, and we beat the Packers, who were undefeated at the time, late in the season.
We had playmakers on that team, though, at some positions. That team got nothing.
Yeah. Okay. All right, we'll see, man. Are you picking them to go winless?
Yep, I'm picking them to go winless. I think they're that bad. So,
all right, we can bet dinner on that or something. All right. Next, now we're going over to the AFC. Everybody in Chiefs Kingdom's
The real
favorite
conference.
division, the AFC North. What?
call it the RFC for the real football conference. They're changing the name this year from the AFC to the RFC because the NFC is junk.
Sorry, John.
AFC North. This is a close one. I was surprised how many votes the Steelers pulled.
The Yinzers are out there.
Yeah, I know the Mike Tomlin effect, and they still have yet to have a losing record, and somehow they always scrape together at least a 500 season. Kenny Pickett started to come around a little bit at the end of last year. They got Najee Harris. They got Deontay Johnson, and oh gosh darn, of course now the guy's other receiver's name is going to escape me. Someone should be able to help me out here. The rookie George Pickens. Sorry.
Oh, Pickens, yeah.
George Pickens. They got some playmakers. Pat Freiermuth, a tight end. No one's going to confuse him with a Travis Kelce or a George Kittle, but I think he's a slightly above average to above average NFL tight end. Their defense has not been normally what it's been. They're in Pittsburgh the last handful of years. Team's kind of fallen off. I don't expect them to contend for the division. I think this comes down to the Bengals and the Ravens. I really do.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, 100%.
Sorry to our man Ivan. If you're checking this out later, Ivan, I just don't see it with your Browns. They've got some playmakers. Nick Chubb, arguably the best running back in the NFL. They have Amari Cooper at wide receiver, who is a upper tier, I would say. I'm not going to call him a top tier or an elite wide receiver, but he's pretty good. Deshaun Watson, I was looking at him because I was looking at maybe doing some trades in Dynasty and just looking and seeing where he's valued. They have him as like the 10th most valuable, and this is fantasy football, so this isn't like obviously real football, but they have him as the 10th most valuable quarterback, which kind of surprised me still at this point in the NFL. If he's truly a chance, Myles Garrett on the defense.
You just like totally dropped out and popped back in. That was weird.
Yeah, I know. I saw maybe my internet's acting a little shady or something here. So, but I'm not sure where I cut out. But I was talking about, I mean, if Deshaun Watson can get back to being a top 10 quarterback, top 5 quarterback in the NFL, that changes a lot for them. I'm just going to have to see that before I believe it, though, for the Browns this year. They seem like they're a team that you could always say every year, oh, well, they've got some good players. The last couple of years they had
they always pick in the top 10, I mean.
Yeah, they're always picking at the top of the draft. They had Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, which was probably the best or one of the best running back duos in the NFL the last couple of years. They've had Myles Garrett. They've had playmakers. They just don't put it together for whatever reason. Every year in Cleveland, they just don't put it together. They did sneak into the playoffs and beat the Steelers in that wild card game a couple of years ago. But outside of that, they're really not in the discussion as a playoff team, especially not a challenger for the division title. Bengals and Ravens pretty close there, 39-32. Nick, who you taking?
I mean, you got to give the nod to the Bengals here, right? I know that they're like the new big rival in the AFC, but so Chiefs fans don't want to pick them. I understand that, but I mean, they've been in the AFC Championship game the last 2 years, and they went to a Super Bowl. Like their team isn't markedly different. It's not like they've got a big contract and they had to let some of these key guys go this year. They're still riding that, rookie Joe Burrow contract and Jamar Chase contract. So I think you got to pick them to win. Lamar Jackson, is his contract going to affect next year? He signed, but he's still on his rookie deal, or does his money kick in now? Because if so, like the Ravens aren't going to. I don't think
that was a contract extension that they gave him, I believe. So, his money's kicking in, but they went out and got weapons for him. That's a couple years down the road before I think that really starts hitting them hard.
Yeah.
Because they do what all these teams do. They backdate stuff. They went out and got OBJ. They've got some players. J.K. Dobbins. If you haven't already drafted in fantasy football, I saw J.K. Dobbins was going like the 5th round in some drafts. Pick that guy up. He could be one of the best, if not the best running back in the NFL if he can stay healthy. They were a Lamar Jackson injury away from winning this division last year. If you remember, they played the Bengals late in the year.
It's
and
true.
Were going in to basically win that game, and Tyler Huntley fumbled the ball at the goal line, and the Bengals returned it for a touchdown and win that game. I think it's closer. I think it's a lot closer.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe you're right.
And that's no disrespect to the Bengals. It's just tough. It's tough to win the division year in and out. We think it's easy. We get spoiled as Chiefs fans because Chiefs have won the division 7 years in a row. It's like, oh, well, they've just penciled them in. Injuries happen. All kinds of things can happen. I'm going to pick the Ravens. Upset the Bengals. Dang. And I like the Bengals. I'm not picking them because I don't like the Bengals or I'm a Bengals hater. I'm not. I've given them their kudos. And Joe Burrow, I've constantly said on this show that I think he's right up there in that tier right below Patrick Mahomes with Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts and some of these guys. They've loaded the Ravens up on offense with weapons for Lamar Jackson. So it's do or die this year. I think they find a way to do it. I like their defense. I think maybe the Bengals defense, maybe the Bengals come down to earth a little bit. Ravens rise back up, maybe stay healthy this year with some of their key playmakers. They got Mark Andrews, who's a top tight end. They're pretty stacked too. So I expect it to be a close race. If the Bengals win the division, I will not be surprised, but I'm going to pick the Ravens. Looks like John C. saying time for a change. I don't know. Is he talking about time for a change for me on the show for picking the Ravens, or is he talking about time for a change in the AFC North and the Bengals maybe not winning the division this year? Who's everybody taking in the chat? Most of what they're saying is picking the Bengals, right?
John B saying Bengals. We've got Lainey picking her favorite team, the Bengals. I didn't see JT pick, but he did put the Browns suck ass. So.
Yeah, when you have an elf on your field, you probably should start the game down 10 points.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a close race, just like it was last year. Came down to the wire.
Yeah. I guess, I wasn't thinking about that, but do you think Lamar Jackson's going to hold up for a whole season this year?
He's got his money now, so I think that affects some of it. I don't know.
Do you think that he was holding out because he didn't want to get more hurt and affect his pocketbook?
Right. And I'm just giving you a hard time, John. See, I was poking a little fun at myself there, buddy. I know what you were talking about, the time for the change there. JT,
Elves are
rolling
magical.
JT's rolling Bengals. That's to be the popular pick, and they won the poll. And, I mean, they're probably the favorite, but these things shake up, and every year, like these teams, you can't pick the same teams to win the division every year. It just doesn't work that way.
I just feel like, I mean, it seems close, but the Bengals come out on top. I mean, there's been a couple of years where it seemed like the Chargers might take it from the Chiefs, and then the Chiefs, still come out on top. I don't know, man. I feel like Burrow's just more of a winner, personally. But
yeah.
Okay, all right.
He's got the weapons too.
For now.
For
now, we'll see what happens when he doesn't have the best receiving core right out there. But and the other thing is like the other OBJ. Yeah, the other OBJ went to the Bengals, and so maybe Burrow going to be taking some hits because Orlando Brown Jr. I don't know. I think Chiefs fans were not upset to see him go. So,
no,
all right.
And there's been plenty of content. Real quick, there's been plenty of content out there showing OBJ's limitations at left tackle and at tackle in general. And Joe Burrow better get them calves and them hamstrings warmed up before game time because he's gonna be doing some running. You can go ahead, Nick. AFC South.
AFC South. Yeah, look, I guess you could say the Titans might push for this, right? They've got Derrick Henry. They landed the big off-season free agent there, DeAndre Hopkins, right? He went to the Titans, but I think that people are seeing the Trevor Lawrence, right? He looks like he's the real deal. He's won a playoff game now. I think they've got a good coach that won a Super Bowl, Doug Peterson. It's I think it's got to be the Jaguars. I just think that the quarterback talent there is so much better than what any of the other teams have. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I agree with that assessment 100%. It came down to the final game of the year last year, right? The Jags and the Titans. I don't know. Ryan Tannehill's getting older. Derrick Henry's getting older, although that guy is an absolute freak of nature. So maybe he doesn't slow down. But, man, the Jags, you look at the Jaguars, you look at their offense and some of the weapons that they have. Trevor Lawrence was one of the top-rated quarterbacks in the league last year as the season went on, especially the last 8 or 9 games of the season there, that back half going into the playoffs. They played the Chiefs pretty tough in that playoff game. I know Patrick Mahomes was injured in that game and was hobbling around, so he wasn't 100%. But the Titans adding Nook, I just don't see the quarterback position holding up for them. And Ryan Tannehill started to kind of regress last year. The backup they had did not look like an NFL quarterback out there. I mean, he was running backwards and taking 15-yard sacks in overtime against the Chiefs in that one game. So,
right.
Yeah, I think the Jags are the runaway winner. Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, the Jaguars finally stopped messing around with Robinson at running back and put Etienne in, and he crushed it. They get Calvin Ridley back. People forget about Calvin Ridley because he sat out all last year. He was one of the best wide receivers in the league his last year there in Atlanta. So, yeah, Jaguars clear favorite to me in this division. The defense is also no slouch. They've got some players on defense. They got a good defensive line. The old Saxonville nickname that the D got there, although the Ravens kind of took that, or the Eagles took that title last year. But, yeah, I like the Jaguars. That's going to be a tough week 2 game for the Chiefs on the road at Jacksonville.
I guess my point in bringing that up is I don't think that it's a 83% to 11% chance of winning the division. That's all I'm saying. Like, I think the Titans, don't be surprised if they're making a push later in the season. I feel like they're a pretty strong team and they have a pretty good coach. I mean, they play the Chiefs hard. You know, they had that, you know, that, like you said, that guy that wasn't an NFL caliber quarterback playing for him against us, and it still took some Patrick Mahomes heroics at the end of the game to pull out the W, right?
Yeah.
So
That was a weird game, though, where the Chiefs moved the ball at will and then stalled. That might have even been the beginning of their red zone woes. Was that the first game or was the Rams game? They were like super hyper efficient in the red zone the first part of last season,
right.
and then really kind of regressed back to the mean there and struggled in the red zone. That was one of those games where Chiefs, they easily could have been up 27-3 in the first half. But so for field goals, I want to say they even had a turnover. I want to say maybe they had an interception or a fumble or something when they were driving down there. So I don't like the Titans. I think they got worse. I think the Jags got better. So I'm picking Jags. I think they probably win that division by 2-3 games.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
I mean, how many games do you think the Jaguars win next year? Or I should say this year.
I'd have to look at their schedule, but they're probably what, like a
It's not super tough.
11-win team.
Yeah, I'm thinking they're a 12-5 team.
Yeah, Titans are like a 9-win team. Go 9-8.
Yeah, I think so. 9 to 10 wins, and I think the Jags are in that 12-13 game, maybe 13-4 if the ball bounces their way a couple times and they stay healthy. So,
yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see. JT, I mean, it's looking like everybody's saying 11, 12 wins. So,
yeah.
All right, cool. All right, AFC East. This one's gonna be more contested, right?
Yeah, you were asking, is this the toughest division, the closest division? Earlier, I think it was the NFC South. You said that. I think this is the hardest division in football.
Well, let me clarify real quick. What I meant, if this is going to be the most contested division because the teams are good, the NFC South is the most open division because the teams are not. Well, none of the teams are good. That's really what I was saying there.
Right. AFC East, Bills. I thought maybe the Jets and the Dolphins would overtake the Bills. The Bills, they did what they do every year. They started off hot last year, faded down the stretch. They didn't get smoked by the Chiefs in that playoff game 2 years ago, but they got trounced at home by the Bengals in that playoff game last year. That ended poorly. Mm-hmm. I know all of the talk now too is that the Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen rift is not real and that they're best friends still and that they hang out. I mean, Diggs was like leaving camp and waving his arms and getting pissed right at Josh Allen in the playoff game last year. There's some drama there on that team. They're going to be without guy's name, pass rusher. Used to be with the Broncos, Von Miller. They're without Von Miller to start the season. They've won this division, I want to say 3 or 4 years in a row now. Really interested to see who, and everybody in the chat thinks here, who wins this division. Nick,
you gotta love the one Patriot faithful dude who's voting for them, huh?
That's an accident. That's like a oh shit! I went to tap.
Like you're scrolling on your phone and you accidentally vote in the poll.
Oh,
dude, I think he's really gonna do it. We don't have Tom Brady anymore, but you know.
Yeah, they got the hoodie. Yeah, how's the hoodie looking now? How's the hoodie looking now?
Yeah.
You want me to pick first? You've been picking first, feels like the whole time.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm taking the Jets. I think they've got the defense. I think they've got the coach to coach the defense. And Aaron Rodgers is in a legacy season right here. He's got the weapons. He's got receivers on this team. They brought Allen Lazard over. He's got Garrett Wilson, who's one of the best young wide receivers in the league last year. They got Breece Hall, although he's come back from injury, so they're planning to ease him in. But he was one of the best running backs in the league last year. They brought in Dalvin Cook, who is a damn fine second string running back at this point in his career, would be a starter on most teams. I think Aaron Rodgers is motivated. I think Aaron Rodgers knows that if he doesn't at least make another Super Bowl, this talk of him being one of the greatest of all time is really going to start dropping off. So I like the Jets in that division. I think it's time for the Bills to maybe take a step back. They've been running hot, win this division, beating up on some teams that were maybe down. Dolphins and Jets are no scrubs anymore, and they're not pushovers. So I'm picking the Jets to win that division. Nick?
Yeah, I picked the Jets as well. I think that if you look at the Aaron Rodgers to New York deal, it's kind of similar to what was going on with Tom Brady when he went to Tampa, where they had a solid defense and they had some good weapons there. I just think that like he's going to put them over the top there, and he's not even going to have to do that much just because Robert Saleh as a coach has a solid defense. And when you have a really good defense, it's like playing the game on easy mode as a quarterback, right? When the team's only giving up, 15 or 18 points. So that's what I think. I think that the further you get Josh Allen away from Dable, the more you're going to see him regress and go back and, be more of the roller coaster that player that he was earlier in his career. I think that, he plays kind of this fast and loose style. And I think that, it's going to be like, they're trying to like run him less. So he's not as hurt, I guess, is what they said their focus is going to be. But he's going to be trying to do more with his arm. I think you're going to see an uptick in some turnover plays, but it's going to be tight. I mean, I don't think that, people are giving the Dolphins a lot of play here because Tua was hurt so much last season. But I mean, they have a good team too, right? I mean, they beat the Bills they split with the Bills last year, right?
Yeah, and they were taking the Bills to the wire there in that super wild card weekend. Shitty wild card weekend is what it ought to be called. Although both those games were good last year, actually, for the first time.
They were, yeah. So I mean, I think that all that plays in the Jets' favor, right? So it's going to be tougher, but that just means that there's going to be more losses that are being spread around. So interesting. Did you see that Bill Belichick, like the Patriots, they cut all of their backup quarterbacks, that they only had one quarterback on the roster after their cuts? I mean, I'm sure they'll get another one, but it's weird.
Yeah, they are looking at what was the guy with the funny name that they're expected to sign him when he clears? Bailey Zappi, I want to say the guy's name was. Mac Jones. Yeah. There's no Mike Jones.
Zap Brannigan from Futurama when I hear Bailey Zappi.
Yeah, look, their defense will be above average because the coach, the player, they don't have playmakers on that team. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster goes there. He was a guy that was good last year with Patrick Mahomes, but going from Patrick Mahomes to Mac Jones, you got to expect a drop off there. So, yeah, I don't see them as much of a factor in that division. We have 3 teams in the playoffs out of this division, do you think, Nick? I think the Dolphins.
I don't know. I would say no. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with the Dolphins, what to think of the Dolphins. Tua and the concussion history, the injury history. Their defense was decent. They've got some playmakers. Obviously, the Cheetah being out there in year 2. They got Jalen Waddle at running back. They've still got Raheem Mostert. They went out and got Devin Akane in the draft this year, who a little bit undersized maybe for an NFL running back, but people seem to think that he could be a playmaker. I don't Yeah, I don't think they're a playoff team this year. I just think playing that division is going to kind of beat them up. They've got a little bit tougher schedule. They got to play the Chiefs, although they dodge a bullet playing them in Arrowhead. But they play the Chiefs this year, so
Right.
they play the AFC West. They got to play, I think the Chargers, which we'll get to here in a minute. But yeah, no, I think Jets and Bills make the playoffs out of this division. But yeah, I don't think we see 3 teams either. What's the chat saying here? Mostly Bills. Is that what most folks are going with?
Yeah, Brenda said Bills. I don't know. I saw anybody else.
Looks like Laney picking the Bills, maybe. Yeah, Brian, that's kind of the point I'm making about the Dolphins being the odd team out here.
Yeah. So, okay. Now on to the last one, last division here. I'm sure we're all going to be surprised at who the poll picked.
95% of the vote coming in. Obviously, we got some trolls, Broncos, Chargers, Raiders receiving 1 or 2 votes or whatever it was in there. But yeah, this Chiefs division to lose. I was just talking about you just don't win the division over and over and over. But the Chiefs are that good, and Patrick Mahomes is that good.
Right.
The Broncos, I know a lot's been made of Sean Payton going there, but to me, Sean Payton is not some savant, one of the greatest coaches of all time. The guy went to 1 Super Bowl with Drew freaking Brees. So, and then he's been out of
Russell
football
Wilson hasn't
for how
looked
many
good
years
in the
now?
preseason, has he?
What's that?
Russell Wilson hasn't looked very good in the preseason, has he?
No, I mean he didn't look. Although who's that team they whipped up on the other night? Was that who they beat up? They kicked some team's ass bad in the preseason.
Yeah.
Not that matters. The Broncos, they've lost the wide receiver Tim Patrick for the season again. Jerry Jeudy looks like maybe he's dealing with an injury now. Javonte Williams, they're I don't know if you call him blue chip running back, but he's coming back from a major injury, knee injury last year. I just don't see it with that team. That defense has not been as good the last handful of years. They've been on the decline there. So I don't think them or the Raiders put up much of a fight. The Chargers, I think, are a 9 to 10 win team. So I think they kind of hang around, kind of like last year, hang around within a game or two of the division, and then towards the end of the season, kind of fade out. I think they make the playoffs again. I do think the Chargers are a playoff team again this year.
Yeah.
But I just don't see the Chiefs not winning this division with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. I don't think anybody in this chat's going to pick against the Chiefs. I think even
you're picking then the Bengals, the Chargers, and then the Bills would be the wild card teams of the AFC.
What's that?
You're picking the Bengals, the Chargers, and the Bills would be your wild card picks out of the AFC.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Sounds about right to me. There's always teams that you think are going to be good and aren't, and there's always teams that you don't think are going to be good and kind of pop up on you. So it's always tough to sit there and predict every playoff team 100% accurate. But that's kind of the way the playoff picture is looking to me. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably flip the Bengals and the Ravens, right? With the Ravens being the wild card team. But I think that's sounds about right. I mean, it's just like you said, though, it's really tough because that's picking a lot of teams that were in the playoffs last year, which, I mean, year after year, there's typically not that many, right, that come back. So, but I mean, we're going off the most recent information we have, which is how they played last year and the quarterbacks and stuff they have, and so unless there's some of these new quarterbacks really flash, it's going to be tough, right, for some of these other teams to come up just because the quarterbacks are so strong, right? I mean, there's just so many strong quarterbacks in the AFC right now. It's loaded. So, Bo's back.
Sorry about
He's got
that.
the Chiefs in that one. Yeah, all good.
Bo's taking the Chiefs. Shocker. throat's acting up here a little bit. This cold's popping back up a little bit. Yeah, win the Super Bowl at Arrowhead West up there in Las Vegas. There's a lot been being made about it. Super Bowl 58, win Super Bowl 58 for number 58, Derek Thomas, in the Raiders Stadium. That would be an option. That would be an awesome accomplishment. So, yeah, I don't. I mean, is there anybody in the comments got any questions? Anything we missed? I'd like to know what everybody thought. I got a new microphone set up here, a wireless one. Maybe my audio is a little less echoey. Maybe it sounds a little bit better. I don't know. Maybe let me know in the chat if you think the sound sounds better or not. Chiefs are exempt. Yeah, there you go. John C. Chiefs, Chargers, Jags, Buffs, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Jets, Steelers. Well, there you go.
Steelers. That's interesting pick.
Well, that's 8 teams, so one of those is going to have to miss it.
Yeah.
You say maybe Jets or Steelers fight for that last spot.
There you go. Better sound quality, Scott. People can just hear your beautiful voice streaming through the internet.
Right. Yeah, I was a little curious how it was going to work. It was kind of, I'm not going to say a cheapy, but it's like a little clip-on microphone I got here. Hello? Hello? I wanted to look like the pros on NFL today.
Is this thing on? I mean, you got to get one of these whole deals, right?
Yeah. I mean, I like the iPhone camera. So I was kind of avoiding dropping $600 or $700 on camera for the laptop and for the mic, but not sure about both. Thanks to the audio. He said earlier he couldn't hear anything. So
John C says he needs to just sing a song really to tell.
Sing a song? Oh man, you don't want that. Trust me. There's no microphone in the world that's gonna give me a singing voice. So
oh, hold on. I got a thing for this. I think I have a thing for this. Ah, you blew it. There it is.
Do it live. Fuck it. We'll do it live.
That's for you, Big Bry, one-man show, our guy Big Brian. So looking forward to next week's show. It's going to be Red Wednesday. It's going to be the NFL kickoff eve, whatever you want to call it. The Kansas City Chiefs start the 2023 season at home in prime time on Thursday Night Football, which will be the Sunday Night Football broadcast. The whole NFL world will be looking at Arrowhead Stadium and the Chiefs as they take on the Detroit Lions. Nick and Scott are going to be at the game, not trying to rub it in, but just rubbing it in a little bit. We'll be in section 309, representing in the stands there, making some noise. Looks like our man, let's see, our guy Kevin was back in here.
Yeah.
Maybe Kevin didn't leave. Maybe he just wasn't commenting. Picking the Browns to bash the Bengals. Joe Burrow has a losing record against the Browns. Is that correct? I want to say he's like 3-4 or something. Someone pointed that out when they were talking about Burrow owns Mahomes and the Bengals own the Chiefs because 3-1. And someone replied back, well, then the Browns own Joe Burrow and the Bengals because they've got a winning record against Cool Joe. So, yeah, we're not going to forget your flag, Laney. If you haven't gotten your Red Wednesday flag, I believe you can go on Chiefs.com right now and order you one up. They'll ship it to your house.
Pretty sweet.
Going to have to be hitting the McDonald's here in Smithville early Wednesday on the way to work, picking up some flags. Really looking forward to going and watching my team raise a Super Bowl banner and a Super Bowl flag. It's going to be the shit.
Waited a long time for this one.
Dude, long time, man. I've been waiting a long time. So Arrowhead's going to be rocking. I mean, I love night games anyway. Night games are my favorite. We'll always pick one up for you, Bo. You know I got you there. So night games are my favorite. Looking forward to it. We're back into football. the summer's over. It kind of had like a I don't know if you want to call it death rattle here last week with the heat. It was brutal hot after a pretty mild summer that Bo was in town for, just in time to enjoy the Midwest
Awful heat.
humidity heat, triple digit heat with 90% plus humidity was nasty. But yeah, I've been looking. There's people saying that the Chiefs game is going to be 102 degrees Thursday. And I was like, well, it's a night game, so it's not going to be 102 degrees at night.
I hope not.
Primetime football to kick the season off, first game of the year. Man.
I will still be there if it's 102 degrees at kickoff.
Right. I will be there. It'll be out of the sun. 102 out of the sun is a lot better than 102 in the sun. So,
Smith
Bowl.
Bowl.
Smith Bowl. No, it's the Ville, baby. It's the Ville.
Ville.
It's Trim Bowl now. Maybe it is Trim Bowl, but it's not Smith Bowl. I don't think, Big Bri. But really appreciate everybody who jumped in the chat, was watching us. We got the regulars in here. Look, we had a few new folks. We had Outlaw. We had our man Kevin was up in here. Been a while since we had seen him. Bo was in the chat. He missed the show tonight, but he got his picks in anyway. So Brenda, Big Doug, Laney, John V, JT, Tom, our man Chris Daly was in here earlier. If I forget you, I apologize. My memory is just not that good. Ask anybody that knows me. We'll be back next Wednesday.
Hold on. Didn't we Tom wasn't in last week, but Tom, if you're still there, DM us on Twitter because we're doing a new comment of the week, and you had the comment of the week, and so we want to send you a sticker. I think you may be I think you said you were in Barbados or somewhere, so we'll have to figure out the postage there, but DM us on Twitter at Chiefs Kingdom Live. And we'll get you a CKL sticker. Bo got us hooked up with some stickers. So
if you don't have Twitter, Tom, I don't know if Tom has Twitter. Reach out to us maybe on Instagram, or you can reach out to us through the channel. I think you can send a message that way here on YouTube. So yeah, we're looking for it. We're ready for next week. We're gonna have a killer show next Wednesday night at 8:00.
Yeah.
NFL kickoff eve. Wednesday.
Dude. Come on,
nude
bro.
Comment of the week. Well, I mean, we could have nude comment of the week too.
Bro. You know what I'm saying.
We could do both. I think I could probably get my man Brian a sticker anyway. But
yeah,
appreciate everybody who watched. Don't forget, click like, click subscribe. We'll be back next week, so turn on that notification. You do not want to miss next week's episode as we get ready to kick off the season as the Chiefs defend their Super Bowl championship on the road to back-to-back Super Bowl championships for this franchise. We want you all to be there. We love you. Appreciate the support. And until next week, let's go Chiefs.
Let's go Chiefs.